Hey there. Today I'm going to be looking at the massive topic of God, which is basically a summary of my take on everything to do with God, everything ever, every idea from the very beginning of humanity to now. Okay. A summary of my entire position would be I consider myself agnostic. I sit on the fence, like politics. You know, if you say, I support the Labour Party or I'm against the Labour Party, well, it's possible to sit on the fence and say I'm not really swayed either way. Until about 2 years ago, I would have called myself Christian, but there were various reasons that I may go into at some later date that made me sort of reconsider things and that and I changed my views, and I can tell you it's a very interesting experience to change your views on such an issue. For those who maybe have never had any sort of religious leaning, it's maybe not something that you have the same level of experience or empathy with, but that's a thing. But yeah, hopefully you can find some interest at least in my take on things. So I'll make my points. Now, the reason I define myself as agnostic rather than atheist is, yes, I lack a belief in God. I don't specifically subscribe to any particular conception of God. The reason I don't call myself an atheist is because, in my opinion, an atheist is someone who specifically denies the existence of God. Now, I know there's a massive debate about this. Some people saying that if you lack belief in God, then you are an atheist. There is either theist or atheist. A theist is someone who believes in some kind of God, whether they define it or not, whereas an atheist is someone who denies that. But I disagree with that, because I think it's just not as simple as that. And a lot of the comments that you find people saying about theism versus atheism is, one is about belief in God, one is about lacking belief in God. But then my take on it is, if you change the word belief for the word opinion, which essentially they mean the same thing, belief is a specific example of an opinion. What you end up with is an atheist saying, I have no opinion on God. Well, that's clearly not true, is it? The theist would say, my opinion is that God exists. The agnostic would say, I have no real opinion on the matter. I have no real belief. An atheist would say, I lack an opinion. But that, atheist and agnostic, I'm pretty sure people would say there is a distinction between the two. Anyway, I think I've rambled on about that long enough. Essentially, my reasons for not believing in the God of the Bible centre around what philosophers have called the inconsistent triad, which was outlined mainly formally by Epicurus. The quotation goes something like, if God is benevolent, why does bad stuff happen? If he's powerful, why doesn't he do something about it, and all that? And then at the end he goes, if he's none of these, why call him God? And that kind of, in a nutshell, is sort of the main reason for my lacking belief in the God of the Bible. The idea of the inconsistent triad is that basically three certain qualities of God: omnibenevolence, which is God being all-loving; omnipotence, which is God being all-powerful; and I think omniscience, which is God being all-knowing. And Epicurus argues that those three things can't exist together. So, two of them existing challenges the existence of the third one. So that kind of all of them together, God can't be all three. But the problem is obviously that usually he has been defined as being all three to a certain degree. My main reason for not believing in the God of the Bible is basically it's down to evolution, but not necessarily because it contradicts creationism. Basically, it's not the idea of mankind having evolved from other creatures, because there's no apparent contradiction there, unless you're a creationist, in which case, well, that's a different issue, of course. the point about evolution is that it requires animal suffering. It requires it. It's suffering is the currency of evolution. Their very existence is defined by suffering, and I think that suggests one of four possibilities. The four possibilities are that God is good, so he doesn't want animals to suffer, but he can't do anything about it for whatever reason. Another possibility is that God doesn't exist. The third possibility is that God is sort of beyond our kind of ideas of care, like kind of Aristotle's prime mover. If you don't know about that, look it up, or maybe if you ask me, I'll explain it in my next video. Was that a good plug? Was that a good thing to make you watch my videos more? So there is that idea that God doesn't care, that he's beyond, he's beyond good and evil, beyond our human conceptions. The idea, my ways are higher than your ways, says God. Fourth possibility is that God is actually a sadist, that he actually wants animals to suffer. That's why he set up an entire system where the survival of any creature depends on an enormous level of suffering. Stephen Fry has pointed out that the majority, if not all, of animals spend their days in stress and unhappiness, basically fighting to survive. It's really not a nice world out there. And the reality of evolution as it requires so much suffering, just to me does not suggest a God who is loving or sufficiently bothered about the existence of this planet or anything on it to actually do anything about it. That's basically my main point. But now, why is it that I say that I'm agnostic rather than atheist? It's because, basically, I just think in my mind, to say I don't think there is a God is so, in a way, so narrow-minded, and let me explain that. Because the word God is so general, it can refer to just about anything. Just for some comparison, I've listed Thor, Allah, and many of Lovecraft's entities. All of them can be regarded as gods, and all are very different. Thor is basically a human with superpowers. He dies. He's essentially mortal. He dies. He's dead. Or if Ragnarok has already happened, and that's probably another debate. But yeah, Thor is regarded as kind of very much like a human. But then by contrast, in Islam, probably more so than in Judaism and Christianity, God is regarded as, he's so beyond and above everything humans understand. So he's not represented in any way because they just believe that you can't actually do him any justice. And of course there is an idea that he exists in multiple dimensions, and it's like trying to draw a sphere in one dimension. It just wouldn't. You just can't do it. You can draw a representation of it, but you can't draw anything close or vaguely meaningfully conveys the essence of the thing you're trying to draw. That's kind of what God might be. That's how Muslims regard him. And then in Lovecraft's work, many of his abominable entities are regarded as gods. And an interesting thing is, in the mythos, which I don't believe Lovecraft himself formalised, but I think was kind of put together by August Derleth, there are essentially at least two tiers of gods within Cthulhu mythos. There's Cthulhu and all his buddies, and they're regarded as gods by some people on Earth. But Cthulhu and all his buddies are actually only servants and worshippers of a higher pantheon of gods, which includes Azathoth, who exists at the centre of the universe, and Nyarlathotep, and Yog-Sothoth, who surrounds the universe and exists in the Whoniverse, the Doctor Who universe, as the Great Intelligence. So there you go. The Doctor kicked the arse of Cthulhu's grandfather, basically. So that happened. My point is that from the right perspective, just about anything can be regarded as God or a God. And so that's why I don't think there is a God, because this universe is too vast to be able to really make a judgment on it. We barely even understand our own solar system, so how can we go and impute things about the rest of our galaxy? We don't even understand the sea. Um, our view of the universe is so tiny. It's ridiculous how small we really are. We know nothing about this very existence that we have. Going back to Lovecraft, I believe the first line of the Call of Cthulhu goes something like, "The most merciful thing in the universe is the inability of the human mind to correlate all of its contents." So that kind of, that sums up why I think it's actually quite narrow-minded to say there is no God, because you don't actually know. You might be able to say, there is no God as I believe he is displayed in certain faiths or whatever. You can define God and say this is the kind of God I don't believe in, but the term can be so general it can refer to almost anything. So to say there is no God is to disregard just about anything that can actually be called a God, which we could be. For all we know, there may be intelligent bacteria, intelligent things existing even within the atom. We don't know that. We don't know that these things don't exist, and those things could regard us as their invincible, all-powerful, all-knowing, eternal protectors. We don't know, and they might regard us as quite callous for not acknowledging their existence. But that's my point. That God, the word God, can range from anything from Thor to Allah to Cthulhu, and just about anything in between. And so that is why I don't say that I don't believe in God. I would say I don't believe in the God of the Bible. I have my reasons for that, which I've explained. But I'm open. I would say I'm open to the idea of another kind of God existing. The idea of perhaps Spinoza's God, or the prime mover, or some other kind of, not uncaring, but some other kind of entity that is beyond humans, and it's possible that such an entity created humans, then, popped off and did other stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, of course I would love to believe that there is some kind of loving entity out there that is on my side, that wants me to do the best I can in life, but unfortunately, I can't honestly and rationally believe that is the case. Of course, it's possible I'm wrong. I've not lived a very long life from some people's standards, but other people's standards I have lived a very long life. But compare me to a Time Lord, for example. Sorry, that's like 2 Doctor Who references in this video, which is completely unnecessary. But actually, that's a good point, because in The Impossible Planet, the David Tennant story, one of my favourites, he points out that he's seen a lot of entities that can claim to be God, and he kind of, he sort of says, "Oh, I've seen all of them. I've seen everything from this guy to that guy to the other guy to the guy upstairs to the guy downstairs to the guy over there, just over there to the guy behind me." The point is, the word God can refer to just about anything. And I would love to believe that there is an entity out there who cares for me and wants me to win at life, basically. But I just can't believe that is the case. So that, in essence, is the summary of my take on the entire issue of God. Sorry if it's not, very rigorously argued, but I just did this off the cuff, and I hope it was of some interest or of some viewing/entertainment value to you, dear viewer. It's you. So yeah, do the normal thing. subscribe if you're interested in stuff. Well, my stuff specifically. Yeah, discuss in the comments. No trolling, otherwise I'll come and beat you up. So yeah, see you all next time. As a postscript, I would say it's very dangerous and highly inaccurate to say religion says this. The point about religion is religion is such, like God, it's such a general term. It can cover everything. You know, religion is like politics. It's more like a giant umbrella covering a kind of army of different coloured mice, if you're taking the umbrella analogy a bit further. So I'm just imagining a load of, vaguely, a load of sort of rainbow coloured mice holding an umbrella. Or ants. It's a bit like ants. But yeah, that's the thing about religion. You can't just say, religion says this. Well, some religions say that, but it's like saying politics does this.